Last year, Honda gave us one of the best cars I have driven in years. The 2023 Honda Civic Type R is fast and sharp, and it is brilliant to drive. And honestly, for a front-wheel drive, front-engine vehicle, I'm not sure I can imagine anything better. But that brings us to this, the 2024 Acura Integra Type S. On the surface and on paper, it does look a lot like that Honda Civic Type R, just with a significantly higher price tag. But peel back a few layers, or preferably drive a few miles, and you will learn that the Integra is truly a different type of animal. Don't forget that you can shop for both of these cars on CarGurus.com, and you can subscribe to the CarGurus YouTube channel to watch my video review of the Honda Civic Type R. But now when it comes to the Type S, I think we should start with what's important: driving. The best things about the Acura Integra Type S are its chassis and its suspension. Because sure, the engine is great and the shifter superlative, the steering almost telepathic, but it is how this car corners, how it grips, and how it maintains its composure through all of that that really blows me away. Because you see, the Honda Civic Type R, I mean, it's a scalpel on a racetrack, and big if here. If it has a failing, it's that when it's not on a racetrack, when it's on public roads, and particularly when it's on rough public roads, it can just feel a little frenetic, like it's just asking and waiting to be let loose out on a closed course again. And the Integra Type S doesn't have any of that. It is a bit longer, but it shares the same wheelbase, so it's not the length. Instead, I think it's how Acura has tuned the suspension and the adaptable dampers. It just always feels a bit more comfortable than the Honda, particularly on rough roads, and yet it doesn't seem to give up any of its grip or cornering prowess. Acura offers 4 drive modes: Comfort, Sport, Sport Plus, and Individual, and 3 adjustments for the dampers: Comfort, Sport, and Sport Plus. Dial in Comfort and the Integra is at its most comfortable, but kick it up to the Sport Plus mode and it is at its firmest and most stable. It also opens up the exhaust valve to allow for plenty of pops and bangs. What else is good news? Well, how about a little extra power? Because if you were to buy a Honda Civic Type R, this engine would give you 315 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque. But if you buy an Acura Integra Type S, it makes 320 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque, a pretty big difference. Now, I am being a little cheeky there, but to be totally honest, I appreciate the power bump, if only because the Acura Integra Type S weighs about 30 pounds more than the Civic Type R. You can see that weight too. The Acura is longer than the Civic and it carries a bit more visual bulk. It looks and feels wider with a lower stance and a bigger body kit. Its grille and the Acura emblem dwarf the more reserved front end of the Honda. At the rear, you still have 3 massive center-mounted exhaust outlets, but there's no big goofy wing on the back like there is on the Civic Type R. I guess the Acura brand is just a bit too premium for something that juvenile, which I would like to point out I absolutely adore on the Honda. Under the hood, Acura and Honda use different engine covers, although they both incorporate plenty of red. What's important is that in both cars, it's a terrific engine. I mean, it is strong and high revving, and it's perfectly matched with the rest of the drivetrain. The shifter, though a bit longer than I'd hoped, particularly when reaching forward to the first, third, and fifth gears, is so gratifying to use. It's notchy and precise, and the clutch is good too. It's not too long, it's not too heavy, but at the same time, it's not too light. This really is a true driver's car. That's not to say it's not practical though, because this is a liftback and not a traditional sedan. There's a surprising amount of cargo space. Specifically, you get 24.3 cubic feet, and that's before you fold down the rear seats. Backseat legroom is good, although headroom is a little tight. And if you have long legs, you might find the rear seat cushion lacks a bit of thigh support. Up here, we do have better seats than we had in the Civic Type R. Now, there's still plenty of red, but in that Civic, it looks like the elevator doors had just opened in the Overlook Hotel. These are heated, but not ventilated, and they're very comfortable, very supportive. They're suited more for long road drives than time on the track. The driver's seat here has 12-way power adjustments, but it's just manual adjustments for the front passenger who doesn't get any height adjustment at all. The shifter looks and feels great with a very vertical design. It's very JDM. The cup holders are positioned a little awkwardly, particularly the rear one, and this center console bin is a little small, but honestly, neither of those things are that big a deal. The Integra Type S has good tech, but it just seems to be lacking a bit of color. It works, and it does most everything I want it to do, but the Acura Integra Type S's 9-inch touchscreen interface looks well behind other vehicles at this price point. Quick and easy to use? Check. Pretty or interesting to look at? No check. I don't understand why so much of this screen is just in grayscale black and white, particularly because the Android Auto icon does show up in full color. And certainly, I mean, some pages like vehicle settings here, this shows up in color too, but not the home screen, the screen that you're probably going to have to look at every time you get into the car. Now, if we're going to applaud Acura for something as simple as a volume knob, then I'm sure as shooting gonna ding them for a boring UI. I will give credit to the ELS Studio audio system, which sounds wonderful, and better yet, is included as standard equipment. Likewise, it is really nice to see wireless Android Auto and wireless Apple CarPlay, and it's equally nice to not see any sort of touchpad interface, just an easy-to-use touchscreen display with a few physical buttons and some steering wheel controls. In terms of safety, the Integra Type S has Acura Watch. It's a suite of features that includes adaptive cruise control, automatic emergency braking with pedestrian detection, lane departure warning and lane keeping assist, blind spot monitoring, and rear cross traffic alert. Acura offers the Integra Type S with only a manual transmission. There is no automatic transmission offered, and that makes the fact that all of that safety stuff is standard even more commendable, because some automakers, they won't offer it at all if it has a stick shift. Now, there are some things that are missing in the Integra Type S because of the stick shift. You can't get traffic jam assist, you can't get stop and go capability for the adaptive cruise control. I mean, those things, they just wouldn't work with a stick. The 2024 Acura Integra Type S starts at $52,595, including a $1,195 destination fee. And admittedly, that feels like, well, it feels like a lot. But truthfully, there aren't really many apples to apples competitors for this car. I mean, the closest would probably be the Honda Civic Type R. It does share a lot of parts, and it starts at a much more palatable $44,890, including destination. But spend more than 10 minutes in the Integra, and it is clear that this is a much more refined and more comfortable driving experience. Honestly, I'm not sure how to evaluate the price tag of the Integra Type S, because while it is $7,000 more than the Honda Civic Type R, and the differences don't necessarily add up to $7,000 up here, I do suspect that over 3 or 4 or 5 years of daily driving, those things like better seats, better noise insulation, a more adaptable suspension, well, those all might feel like $7,000 well spent. Let us know what you think in the comments. I know that with the Acura Integra Type S, we are paying for performance and we are getting a lot of it. But is Acura asking too much for this car, or has it priced it fairly? Again, we want to hear from you in the comments, and I can tell you that if you spend an hour driving this car, it is sure to be one of the most entertaining hours you've ever spent driving, at least on public roads. And speaking of, I'm gonna do a little more driving, so thank you again for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the CarGurus YouTube channel, and we'll see you next time.